Good morning. Thursday mornings. I love Thursdays. They're one of my favorite days. I always remember Thursdays end up being like paydays and I don't know, there's just a good vibe for me on Thursdays. It's like one more day until Friday and the weekend. So I don't know about you. Let me know. Do you also like love Thursdays or at least enjoy them a little bit? I'm here to read some questions, like a little mini self Q&A interview, and just a couple things that I wanted to share. So the first question was, why do I teach yoga? And I'll read what I wrote down. It's my answer. I do it because it makes me feel healthy and whole and more alive and kind of more like myself. And in turn, I know that it helps others, which is funny. That's kind of the same reason why I think I wrote my book, which is the next question in my Q&A here is, why did you write your self-help book? And I reiterate, it's because writing it, the process of writing it, made me feel more healthy and present and flexible in my life. And just like in yoga, even the process of falling away from my yoga practice during the pandemic years that we experienced, made me kind of feel like I aged or lost touch with myself, wasn't as flexible, wasn't as caring towards myself, and kind of rigid and frustrated and a little dark night of the soul away from my yoga practice. The same thing kind of happened when I pulled back from my process of finishing the editing of my book and kind of pulled back from the material in my book, is that I wasn't as grounded and present and focused on self-care and self-love and self-worth and confidence and wellness, which for someone like me, and maybe for someone like you as well, is if you have struggled to find those things in your life, you have to continue to cultivate that. And so I think to go back to answering the question, why did I write my self-help book? Partially it was because I wanted to take this message of hope from my younger self and represent it to this current me. And when I wrote that book, it was pre-pandemic, and now through the editing process, I've noticed I've sort of fell away from some of the practices which I found so valuable. And so coming back to them is like this breath of fresh air as I'm editing this material, and it's bringing me back home to myself and to those steps and practices, like stepping back on my yoga mat brings me back home to myself in those practices. And the other thing is that, like, to deliver that same message to other people, because I know it's helpful to them. And that's probably the best answer that I have, at least for today. And then the next question is, why did I choose to open up and share the process of editing my book, or editing your book, Heather? So the answer to that is, I wanted to share my vulnerability and the difficulties and the rawness of the work behind the scenes. And in this process, I empower myself to keep going. And if I share this task with others, not only do I find the strength to keep going, but I feel supported along the journey. So creating this book and continuing to create this book has been actually a lonely road sometimes, and you hear that from writers and creatives and authors and musicians is that sometimes the deep work of doing that creation, that writing, gets kind of lonely. So I want to invite people in to the journey with me and have some connection and friendship through the process, because this feels like really heavy lifting, and I'd love some help to get the lifting done. And yeah, and I think I'll just stop there. I mean, the next question is, what is your book about? And honestly, I think I'll unpack that a little more in another video, but the very succinct answer to that is it's about my journey from a whole pile of really difficult experiences in my life, and the steps that I took that worked for me to get out of that. And not that it's going to be the same path or journey for anyone else, but I think in the sharing of my process, maybe I give some hope to someone else along the way. That's my Q&A for this morning. Lots of love to you. I hope you have a fantastic day. Cheers.